Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different of a travel vlog than any of the other ones that I've done. This really has nothing to do with vaping or anything like that. This is more along the lines of getting inspiration on what Adam and Steve did and just doing a little thing about, I don't know, life, I guess. Today, I'm driving to Sacramento to go to a veterans job fair. So it's a place where this company sets up basically a job fair for people that have served, and hopefully it gives people like us a little bit of a leg up in what I've found to be, after a long career with the state of California, a difficult atmosphere for getting my feet in the ground and I don't know, making things happen like I wanted to. It's been a rough, I don't know, couple years, I guess. And I don't know, I'll get into a little bit of the history. And glad to have you along for the ride. Now, as most of you know, I was in the Army right out of high school. I didn't graduate high school. I was thrown out of a couple of high schools and then went to a continuation school, which is basically like all the fuck ups go to this school and they try and do whatever. I wasn't into that. So when I was, I don't know, 16 or 17, I just took the equivalency test and I got out because I was over it. From there, I proceeded to do a lot of stupid shit, and I was kind of a fuck up, which, I don't know, everybody kind of is at that age. You're learning where your place is in life, and I quickly learned that I didn't have any direction, and I was going to end up really ruining, I don't know, any chance of having a productive life that I really is what I wanted with the path I was going down. So on my 18th birthday, which seems like, oh, what a coincidence, but it's really not, I got a call from a recruiter, and I went down, took the ASVAB, did reasonably well, I suppose, I don't know, whatever, and was given some options on what I wanted to do with the military. I thought in my mind, well, I don't really feel like going out and shooting people. I could do that at home, you know. So what I wanted to do was learn a trade through the military. So I chose 52 Delta, which was power generator equipment repair. And I was pretty gung-ho about it. I was excited to finally have a purpose and a direction. I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky for my basic training. It went okay. It was fine. No big deal. You get yelled at a lot. Whatever. You've seen movies. It's pretty close. Whatever. And then I went to Aberdeen Proving Grounds for my AIT, which is basically school for the Army. And I kind of quickly learned that it wasn't going to be what I thought it was going to be, which was fine. And after going through school, I was put into a program to do like some extended learning stuff. But during this program, you still do all your exercises and your field training and all that kind of stuff. So this was, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years in, and thank you very much. Always be nice to state workers. I was one. I didn't work at the bridge. I worked for Tunnels and Tubes. But we'll get into that. So, after going back to Fort Knox, Kentucky, we were doing some field training exercises, and I made a mistake, and I jumped down a thing that was too high, and I landed on a slope, and I was wearing my bag and all the stuff, 80 pounds worth of crap all over me, and I hyperextended my knee really badly, tore all the ligaments, ripped out all the cartilage, totally just destroyed it. Didn't really feel it at the time, honestly, and it's not because I'm tough or anything. It's because it was a shocking thing, and I was in shock. So, as I tried to get back up and keep going, because I didn't realize, I fell down the hill again, and it happened again, and tore out whatever was left. So that was essentially the end of my military career. Not very exciting, no real, glory to it. It was just a thing that happened, and that was it. Now, when I got out of the Army, I was still young. I was 20 years old. And all that direction and purpose that I had built up immediately went out the fucking window as soon as I got back home, because I felt like at the time, completely, mind you, this is not true, but as a 20-year-old kid that's angry and feels disenfranchised and doesn't think that thinks that things are unfair, I took a complete wrong turn, and I spent the next few years, few, being what you would call a total shitbag. I was a drug addict. I was a very violent person. I spent too many nights in jail, too many nights on the streets, too many nights in my car. And looking back now, I can say with all honesty that I wouldn't trade a day of it. And not because it was fun, not because it was the cool thing to do or whatever kind of silliness there is. It did shape who I am in a lot of ways, and much bigger ways than high school or the military or my parents or my friends ever did. I was a very insecure person. I took out my fear and depression and anxiety. I took all that out in ways that were very unhealthy by self-medicating, being angry, and disproportionately violent to the circumstances I was in. Then I met my wife, and now, I'm not gonna lie. When I met my wife, we were we liked to have fun. We went out, we partied, we, we were young. It is what it is. But then she got pregnant. And that's when everything kind of changed. You hear this a lot, and it's kind of cliche, but when she got pregnant, I pulled my fucking head out of my ass. And it wasn't immediate. There's no doubting that. But it was something that was very cause and effect, right? This happened, so this happened. What this is I signed on to take a few of the tests for state service to work for the state of California Department of Transportation. I've always been very good at taking tests. I was never real good at doing homework, though. So when I took the test for state service, I scored in the top 2 percentile or something like that. And I got hired on as a maintenance worker for the tunnels and tubes for District 4 Caltrans. Now what that is you open and close, maintain, and do general electrical and machine work for the Caldecott Tunnel. It's in between Oakland and Orinda. This is a very good job. This is a job that I was very good at, and I was immediately promoted within 6 months to operator, and then about a year after that I made supervisor. I was the youngest supervisor in the history of state service for tunnels and tubes. I did that for several years. I was doing projects that were for new tunnels like the Devil Slide Tunnel in Pacifica, which after the project was done, I eventually transferred over there and was a supervisor over there. And then so if you don't know where Pacifica is, it's south of San Francisco. If you don't know where I live, it's about halfway to Sacramento. So what I was doing was commuting about, all told, there and back about 4.5 hours every day, plus working 10 to 12 hour days. And at this point, I was in a chair most of the time, being a supervisor. That's what happens. I was in the area of 285 pounds. And I mean, right now I'm 250. But I'm tall, I'm 6'1", whatever. But still, I was heavy. And I was having sleep apnea. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's where when you sleep, you have trouble breathing, and it causes you to not really sleep very well. I had this machine that I didn't want to use because I didn't like it. And I wasn't sleeping very much. It was a bad situation. One night coming home from work, I worked swing shifts, so I got off at 10 p.m. It was about 1:30 in the morning. I fell asleep at the wheel, and I had a wreck. So I wasn't injured really badly. I was a little bit banged up, whatever, wrecked my truck. But what came of it was that I had to go to a doctor, which I wouldn't do before this because of my experience with the VA. It wasn't a good experience. And I was very distrustful of all doctors. So when I go to see this doctor, he says, listen, you can't work this schedule. You need to find something else. The state needs to find you something else. So I brought that back to the state of California. And for whatever reason, even though, and I don't want to sound like I'm putting all the blame on them, but I had seen many people get transferred to do other things all the time for reasons that were not nearly as dire as mine after almost dying in a car accident because of my schedule. They wouldn't budge. And it became a very contentious situation. It became a situation where I was about to have to start doing some legal stuff. After about a year of dealing with this, it was becoming too much. I couldn't afford to sue the state of California, and they weren't going to budge on my medical issue, and they found a way to get rid of me. So they just basically fired me for having a medical condition. You know, and I was making a lot of money. You know, I made, you know, 6 figures, right? So I had a nice house, my family was doing good, and then all that was gone. It was all gone. It basically ended that little, not a fairy tale life, but that real life, that normal life thing that I was talking about before I went to the Army, what I really wanted, and it was something that I had, and it was something that I lost. And it's probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me, because it's been, I don't know, 3 years since that happened, and I can't get back what I've lost. I've lost my house, my marriage is done, I see my kids sporadically, obviously now, with them being in school, at the school where closer to where I live, they get to be there a lot, which is awesome, and I love it. But and honestly, I don't think I've ever actually even said any of this stuff out loud. It's extremely hard. Okay, so we're pulling into McClellan Air Force Base in Sacramento, California. That's where this job fair is, and what I'm hoping to find is, I don't know, maybe hopefully something familiar to me that can be, you know, a long-term thing, or maybe something completely new. I don't have any qualms against trying new things, and I'm a pretty quick learner, so I'm not going to lie and say that I'm super confident today. I've got a lot of anxiety. I feel like there's a lot riding on this, and that's not necessarily true, but hopefully almost hit a truck. Hopefully it goes well, and see you on the other side. Well, can't say that I think that went very well, to be honest with you. There was a few decent connections, people I talked to that seemed like they were interested, but really nothing around where I live, which I kind of thought that this was more of a all-inclusive across all areas kind of thing. So we'll see what happens, but I'm not overly confident, to be honest with you.